Hey, welcome to my Warframes Where They Are Now series, a little series I've had brewing in the back of my mind since the early days of Warframe, quote unquote. I'm going to put this little intro at the beginning of every video in this series. If you've heard this once or more, feel free to skip it. This is just my opinion and is not guaranteed to be fact. Remember, with Warframe, everyone plays at least a little different from each other. That's why there's 52 frames as of making this intro, of course. That being said, I do plan on being as objective as I can with this series. But bias will always be a potential problem, and will definitely shine through in certain episodes, if not all. Now, that being said, I hope you enjoy the series. September 26, 2023. This time we're talking about Wukong, the golden magic monkey. Well, he's not my favorite, but that doesn't mean I dislike him, nor does that mean he's bad. He's just not my cup of tea, but I have played him quite a lot because of arbitrations. Let's get into it. Base stats on a level 30 Wukong Prime are 275 armor, 195 energy, 450 health, 360 shields, and 1.05 sprint speed. Bear in mind that armor and health is kind of a lie, but we'll get into that in a minute. Wukong's passive is that he dies 3 times before he actually dies. And every time he dies, he actually has, a potential benefit. There's actually 5 possible benefits, despite there only being 3 deaths per, actual death. Those 3 are Primal Focus, triple elemental damage for a minute, Heavenly Cloak, invisibility for 30 seconds, Cosmic Armor, which is invulnerable for 30 seconds, Monkey Luck, which increases loot drops for 60 seconds, and Sly Alchemy, which has your orbs be 4 times more effective for a minute. Frankly, you're not going to get these all too often because he is exceedingly tanky, which we'll get into later on, but I will say Sly Alchemy is kind of fun when that one happens, because, basically infinite energy for a minute. Wukong's first ability is Celestial Twin, and he actually creates himself a friend there, and said friend does a pretty good amount of damage. He actually uses whatever weapons you have on hand. Granted, if you're using your either sort of gun, whether it be primary, secondary, he uses melee. If you're using melee, he uses one or whatever weapon you have last equipped as far as your gun goes. You can actually bypass this by not having a melee weapon if you want to have a gun and have your twin have a gun. Frankly, I don't usually bother with that because they're actually pretty decent with the melee weapons, surprisingly. Unless you're using a gunblade, they don't tend to, use the gunblade as a gunblade. But I digress. It's actually pretty potent, and DE recently nerfed it. Well, I shouldn't say recently. It's been like, 6 months now? Actually, it might be even longer than that. Anyway, they nerfed it not too long ago because of the fact that it was just so goddamn powerful. So now it actually takes from your ammo reserves as opposed to just having an infinite amount. But either way, as for the augment, because it actually does have one, he only has 3 instead of the usual 4, but it's called Celestial Stomp. Hold to command the twin to perform a slam attack, suspending enemies in the air within 20 meters for 25 energy. I don't fuck with this because, well, I'd rather just have my twin use my, Kuva Tonkor or some shit and proceed to annihilate whatever's in front of him. But, it's an option. The second ability is Cloudwalker. He becomes effectively a wall of fog and floats through the air pretty fast, actually. And you heal based on the distance that you travel. And you can actually use it to get through spy vaults if you want to use Wukong for that. I personally use Loki, but it's an option. And options are always good. I use this ability just for health, and that was mainly for when I was using, Wukong for arbitrations. I use mostly Nidus for arbitrations now, but we'll get to him when we get to him. As for his augment, because this is one of the ones that has it, Enveloping Cloud. Allies within 4 meters of the cloud become invisible to enemies for a good 14 seconds. This one definitely comes in handy. I don't really have this on my build myself, but I have a couple friends that do run it. It feels weird when, you walk through a fog wall and then suddenly you're not visible anymore. But it's actually really cool. Alright, so as for his third ability, Defy. He becomes invulnerable for a short duration, as does your twin if he's out, and you rack up a bunch of damage, and you deal the damage to the enemies that are around you via a swirling attack, as well as gain a armor, based on how much damage you absorb, which is pretty fucking easy to get to max, and it caps out at 1500. This and Cloudwalker are why I say he's pretty ridiculously tanky. His fourth ability is Primal Fury. He gets an iron staff, and he gets to beat the shit out of enemies with it. It does a pretty decent amount of damage, albeit not on a weapon that I'm particularly fond of. For me, it's mainly the angles that it actually does damage. I find it feels kind of weird for me. So I actually helmeted off for Larva on one of my builds and for Gloom on my other build. I like to have the CC with Gloom, and with Larva, I like to be able to just pull everything in front of me. As you do with those abilities. Either way. I will say it's nice that the twin gets the staff as well, because the twin's actually better with the staff than I am. I'll be honest. But yeah. Editing Sendirion here. Wanted to pop in and say, while I was recording and I was getting the footage for Primal Fury, the angles aren't as bad as I remember, and honestly, I'm definitely going to be reworking my main build to put it back in. I will say the damage is just as strong as I remember. It's pretty damn potent, but yeah, no, like legitimately speaking, the angles don't feel as bad as I remember, so here we are. As for the augment, Primal Rage. Primal Fury augment, of course. Killing an enemy increases critical chance by 15%. This increases decays by 1% per second. I will say, on the one build that I do have the beating stick, I do actually have this augment because, honestly, it makes it a hell of a lot more powerful. As long as you continuously use it, it's fucking crazy. As for my build, well, as I said, I have 2 without the beating stick and 1 with it. As for the primary one that I use, though, I have Steel Charge on there because I do still use a lot of melee, and it also, if I'm not mistaken, increases the melee damage for your twin as well. But aside from that, I run, strength and duration. I have, no range, but that's okay because, well, I don't really need a lot of range on him. I run Multi-Augmented for the Arcane. Mine's not maxed out, although eventually it will be. I've been kind of lazy as far as that goes. But either way, yeah, it's not anything special, but it gets the job done. How does he perform in Deviri? Well, in regular Deviri, as always, he's pretty good. I will say I do find him a bit boring in regular Deviri because, well, his abilities seem to be quite centered around staying alive. I will say Celestial Twin's a blast, but yeah. As for Steel Path Deviri, though, it's always nice to get him because you'll be able to go quite a ways into Steel Path Deviri with him because of his survivability. And the nice thing is with his twin, you're going to be doing a pretty good amount of damage for quite a while. Just make sure you don't take all AoE weapons because you'll run through your ammo stockpile pretty damn quick. Wukong is a frame I'd say aged pretty well. He definitely got a much needed rework. I don't remember when, a long time ago, when they finally removed Iron Jab. But anyways, his Celestial Twin is awesome. I think it's brilliant design as far as he goes, and it is a ton of fun to use. Frankly, the only reason I don't really use him all that much is because as far as survivability goes, I typically use Nidus or Chroma. And as far as the Celestial Twin, which is the ability that I love on him, well, I have the Duality Augment for Equinox. And Equinox is my favorite frame, as we discussed previously. In my case, he's just in a spot where I already have those niches filled, but he is a good frame. And I understand why, I don't know if he still is, but I understand why he was a fan favorite for so long. As far as I know, he still is. I may be wrong on that. But anyways, that's it, and that's all. Thank you all for watching, and have yourselves a good day.